Thank you to our music team. It lifts me up to hear music like that, to sing together, and thank you all for participating this morning. I want to just add my welcome and also mentioned if you're here and didn't know, we have lunch today. And so at our lunches, we invite everybody to bring something. But if you didn't, you can still stay and eat. We want you to stay and eat. Is that okay? All right. You may not want to eat if you see the food. I don't know. You have to see what's there. But we are going to eat together. And then right when we're done, we're going to have a meeting. We'll start at 12:45 called Mission Launch. And so for all of our members as well as our guests, talking about important things that are happening this year. And we want to invite you to participate with that as well, if you're able to. And when we're done with the worship time, right at 11 o'clock, we have our kids ministry that takes place in the different marked rooms here, as well as our spring season of grow groups. So these are groups that we intentionally set aside to look at different areas of growing in our relationship with Christ. And if you'd like to just come and check it out, we're starting a new series today. And some of the information is on the sheet. Every other chair has a sheet here with some more information about it, and you can read about that. I'd like to have a prayer as we open the Bible today, and we talk about this year and the story that God's writing here at LifeSpring. Would you join me? Father, we want to thank you for this day. Thank you for what you're doing in our hearts, in our minds. And some of us have come from an exhausted week, a difficult, maybe fragmented week, but we're here. We're here to worship you. We're here to connect with others and to grow closer to you. So I pray that your Spirit will continue to lead us through the music has drawn us up to you, through the fellowship, through the food, through the speaking of your word. We ask in your name. Amen. If you have a Bible, I invite you to turn to the book of John, chapter 4. So in the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, we also have Bibles out in the lobby every week here. And some of you may have a way to access it on your phones or tablets. John chapter 4. I want to talk today about the story that God's writing in this church. I remember when this church began in February of 2014, which is 3 years ago in a few weeks, and a handful of people, and the way that God has connected us to others with like-minded passions, connected us to a group that's diverse, not only in ethnicity, but in background, in thought, in vocation and careers. And so what does it mean to us? What does it mean to Jesus, the type of community that He wants to form and to continue forming? So John chapter 4, we're going to start in verse 1. A little background about this setting. Jesus has just performed His first miracle, where he was at a wedding feast and turned water into wine. Amen. And right after that, He began to get very popular, as you can imagine. And when someone is popular, it always threatens someone else who does the same thing. And there is a group there that became very envious about Jesus and what was happening. And it says here in John chapter 4, starting in verse 1, it says, "Now Jesus learned that the Pharisees had heard that He was gaining and baptizing more disciples than John, although in fact it was not Jesus who baptized, but His disciples." And let me pause right there. In the Bible, before all of Christianity and religious circles developed, disciples baptized disciples. Are you with me? Amen. There was no division between a vocationalized clergy and the everyday member. So everyone is called to serve and is called to minister. Not just inside the church and the ministries we have. We want to participate with that, but in your life, in your job, with your neighbors. And so Jesus sees what's happening, and there's many times where He says, "My time has not yet come." And this time, His time had not yet come for the cross, for the resurrection. And so it says here in verse 3 as we read along, "So He left Judea and went back once more to Galilee. Now He had to go through a place called Samaria." You know, mission is about not avoiding situations that may make you uncomfortable. You may participate with a church, or you may say, how much you like things, but really the call of Jesus on your life is to take you out of your comfort zone into situations where you not only are uncomfortable, but you don't know what to do. And so if we're going to follow Jesus, the call is going to destroy your life at one point or another. It's not a call for prosperity in spite of what people may tell you. It's not a call for happiness and comfort. It's a call to do things that honor the Lord, that take you out of your comfort zone, and you may not have the resources. You won't have the resources to fix. So we see Jesus intentionally going through a place called Samaria, reading on in verse 5. So he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about noon. Now, if you go to draw water in a desert area, what time of the day are you going to choose to go to? If you have to mow your yard in the middle of the summer, when are you going to do it? So there's something intentional, there's something unique about going to get water in the middle of the hottest part of the day. Verse 7, when a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" Verse 8, his disciples had gone into the town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink?" For Jews do not associate with Samaritans. Now, a little bit of the background here and why this is significant, but in the story of God, the Jewish people were exiled to a place called Babylon, and when they were freed from Babylon, which is in modern-day Iraq, to go back to Jerusalem, to go back to their land, they found that there were some Jews that never left. They never went to Babylon, and those stayed, and they married people of other backgrounds, and they were known as the Samaritans. So when the Jews returned to rebuild the temple, which you can still see the foundations today, Solomon's temple at the Wailing Wall, the Samaritans wanted to help build that temple. And the Jews said, "I don't think so." The Jewish people at that time were not comfortable with that. And so there arose this great animosity between these two groups, to the point that the Samaritans said, "If you're not going to let us help build your temple, we'll build our own." And it's on a mountain called Mount Gerizim. And so this is some of the background in this discussion here that Jesus is having with this woman. So when you read Jew and Samaritan, you think division, right? You think Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter. You think Obama, Trump. You think North and South, whatever it is to you. But that doesn't even touch upon, it doesn't even come close to the animosity, because these two groups couldn't even sit down at the same table and eat together. They couldn't be in the same room. And so Jesus comes and he says, "I'm not here to perpetuate community by affinity. I'm not here to continue only creating these circles where we only hang out with those who are like us and invite and connect with those who are like us." He says, "I'm going to intentionally go to Samaria to challenge what has normally taken place, to show that there's a new community. And that community is not based upon biology. It is not based upon income. It's not based upon ethnicity or education or any other fill in the blank that you want to put in that circle. It's based upon the power of Jesus and the focus on who He is and what He's done for us." That's the church. That's the community that Jesus came to create. That's messy. That's really complicated. But that's the right thing to do. That's what God has called us to. And so it says in here, moving along, notice what Jesus says to her. Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asked you for a drink, you would have asked Him, and He would have given you living water." "Sir," the woman said, "you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water?" This is one of the great ironies in the stories of the gospel, that this woman is here talking to Jesus, and she starts to feel a little uncomfortable because of what Jesus says to her. And notice what she says here. She says, "Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did also his sons and his livestock?" So Jesus is talking to her about her life and talking to her about her future. And she begins to get a little uncomfortable. Now, if you feel uncomfortable and you want to distract someone, there's two easy ways to distract them and get them off course. There's two topics you could bring up. Those are religion and politics, right? This is the way it is. And so this woman, when she feels uncomfortable, she brings up a religious question that has political implications. Because Jacob, in the past, one of the figures in the Old Testament, was there. God did some great things, and this is the site of a well that he set up. And so Jesus comes to her, and she says, I offer you living water. In other words, God the Father is offering you living water. And she says, well, I want to talk about the other fathers in my past. And God the Father, right there, hidden in plain sight, is the one that's offering her this water. Notice what Jesus says. He answers her, and he says, everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life. In other words, I've got something to offer that's going to fill a void in your life. I've got something to offer that can't be filled by money. It can't be filled by people. It can't be filled by a spouse or kids. It can't be filled by a job promotion or skills or anything else. I offer something that's better. And that's really the message of Christianity, is it not? The message is not that Christians are better than others. In fact, sometimes you'll see the other way around, won't you? Can we be honest? Can we be real? The message is that Christ is better than everyone. He's better than Christians. He's better than any other background that you want to mention, right? Christ is better than everyone. That's the message of Christianity. And Jesus is here offering this water to this woman. And so in order to play this out a little more as it relates to our church and as it relates to this year, I want to share a metaphor with you. And we've used this before each year. This is the third time at the beginning of the year to talk about the type of community that we're called as a church. So I want to use this metaphor. I want to talk about this year, and then I want to end with an invitation to commitment to get involved. So I want to do it through a metaphor of ranching. How many of you have grown up on a ranch? Some of you grew up in an urban city. How many of you have ever seen a cow? Chick-fil-A, right?
About 54, there are cows over there.
There are a few cows before that field gets built out. This is correct. So I want to talk about a contrast between the way cattle ranching is done in America and the way that it's done in Australia. So in America, when a farmer wants to start a farm, first thing he does after he buys his property is he sets up a fence. He builds a big fence around that property. And then his focus, his energy, his time is on taking care of those animals inside the fence, right? And those animals spend all their life in the fence. In fact, if you drive down a field and you see cows and there's a fence, many times, good morning, many times those cows are near the fence, right? And they're standing there and their necks kind of hanging out, wondering what's on the outside world. Are you with me? And they will find out what's on the outside world. When? Let's not talk about that part. They will find out one day. But all the energy, all the time of the rancher or the farmer is spent taking care of those inside on the fence. And there is a clear delineation between the inside and the outside. Now contrast that with the way ranching is done in the outback of Australia. In the outback, a farmer secures a large tract of land, and the first thing they do is not build a fence. That property's too big, right? Mm-hmm. The first thing they do is they survey and find out where there's underground water. Where is the water on that property? And it's hard to find, but there's a place. And when they find where that water is, they drill down, dig a well. And that well becomes the place where those cattle live, that place where those cattle relate to one another. And interestingly, the farmer never has to build a fence. And the cattle don't seem to wonder what's on the outside world. because to do so would be at the risk of their life. All the resources, all the nurture, everything that they need is around that well. It's where the water is. And so the role of the rancher changes, right? The role of the shepherd, the cattleman changes from being about taking care of those on the inside and keeping them in to protecting the animals, keeping them around the well, but protecting them from any outside threats. Are you with me? Amen. Is of two very different views, two very different approaches. And are those cattle different in Australia from here? Well, they may be a different breed. But if you put those Australian cattle in an American farm, they would suddenly start to behave differently, would they not? These two different ways of ranching represent two different ways in which community is created. And you see this all over, not just in church, but in a business and an organization. Darrell Guter, in his book, Missional Church, he talks about these, and he describes them as being centered set organizations and bounded set. And I just want to read a quote to you where he describes, first of all, the bounded set community. And for the purposes of our message here, we'll simply call it a community centered around a fence. So he says, organizations like clubs and societies have initiation rites through which prospective members must move before they can join. People accept the rules of an organization before being allowed into membership. Bounded sets give mechanisms and structure of control to institutions. Generally, such bounded sets are clearly articulated and understood by those within and outside the organizations, and they act as walls of demarcation, establishing boundaries for the group and defining its identity. So in other words, a community centered around a fence is characterized by two things. Number one, a clearly defined set of initiation rules that you have to pass through before you can be welcomed, before you can feel like you belong. And number two, there is only one concern of leadership, and that is to persuade outsiders to become insiders. Are you with me? It's the shepherd standing there saying, you're a cow out on the field free, but would you come inside the fence, right? It's a lot more warm in here. It's a lot better. Why don't you come inside of the fence? Churches that are fenced communities follow this paradigm. And some of you may have, if you're from a Christian background, grown up in one of these, or if not, may have others that have. And we don't have a fence up here, so you just have to use your imagination. But when you come inside that fence, you spend a lot of time wondering what's on the outside world, right? And you see other things going on, but you just don't really know. And there's certain things that have to take place. I mean, in a fenced community church, it could be any fill in the blank of any denomination, including non-denominational churches. Every group of people does these things. And so for some, it might be dress. For some, it might be certain behaviors or certain things that have to take place. And as long as those are in place, we love you, we accept you. But if not, right, on the way to the butcher's shop, we could say. You contrast that with an organization built around a well. And Darrell Guter goes on to say he calls these centered set organizations. They do not define membership as the entry point or the boundary into the community. The centered set organization invites people into a journey toward a set of values. And as a church, we don't just have a set of values, we have a living, breathing person, right? Amen. His name's Jesus Christ. And all are invited as pilgrim people to take steps closer toward that goal. Amen. And so success in a church is not making outsiders insiders. It's not changing what people think about certain things. And I want to say this hopefully tactfully but clearly at the same time. If your goal is simply to change the behavior and change the religious label of a person, then please find another church. Amen. Amen. We have enough of those already. Amen. But if your goal is to help someone take one step closer to Jesus, who is the well, amen, then welcome home.
Amen. Praise the Lord.
Our goal is not simply to judge the religious behavior of people. Our goal is to help people step one step closer to Jesus Christ. That is the well. You know, I shared a story before, and some of you may have heard this, but a woman that I baptized who was smoking, and someone said, well, how could she really get baptized if she was smoking? And my exact words were, if you knew what she was smoking before. Going from crack to Marlboro is like taking one step closer to the well, who is Jesus.
Amen. 10 steps, brother.
10 steps, that's right. Okay? But if we're operating like a fence, you could find someone who says they love Jesus, they dress nice, they have a great family on the outside, but inside they are angry, they are prideful, they are hatred, they are insecure, and that person nobody says anything about. Our goal is to help all of us, ourselves included. I have specific areas in my life to just take steps closer to the well. So success is, what is your next step? Not, are you an insider or are you an outsider? Are you with me? This is so paradigm blowing to the way many of us were raised in American Christianity, regardless of the background. But if you look in the New Testament, this is what it's about. And someone says, well, what does that mean? Aren't there rules? Aren't there boundaries? Of course there are. It's called obedience. We preach obedience, gospel-centered obedience. Not a result of your own effort, but the gospel accepts and frees us to please Jesus. I mean, that's what it's about. That's what the world needs to see. So we have that commitment. We have that direction. But it's all about taking steps closer to the well, taking steps closer to Jesus. Jesus says to her, if you knew who it was that was offering you water, or asking you for water, you would have asked for living water, right? It is a refreshing spring. It is a source of life that touches and blesses all. I want to share a few things about this year, and I have a few people that I want to invite up. I want to invite up Lonnie, Jesse and Luz, as well as Eric, if he's here, to come right on up. I just want to share stories about people who have been taking steps closer. And we have I think there's a slide on there that has a picture of the well with the water coming out. Not on there? Okay. So I will click it back here. So I just want to introduce to you people that are new to this community. And some of you may know them, but they have become involved with the church, just taking steps closer to Christ, and we want to officially welcome them. So this is Lonnie Jose. And, okay, please. So, Lonnie, I promise you don't have to say anything. But thank you so much. I asked if she wanted to complete the sermon. But thank you so much, just the way God's moving in your life, the way that you've connected and been involved. For those that don't know, Lonnie is a music teacher, and that's one of the ways that she serves Christ and serves kids, helping them grow and develop through music. And so thank you for that gift that you give, as well as serving here and sharing that here with the church. Thank you very much. This is Jesse and Luz Gutierrez, and their two boys, JJ and Jonathan. And we had a special dedication prayer for Jonathan a few weeks ago, or last month, those of you that may remember. And these are two sharp-looking little boys. But we want to also just welcome you guys as well to this church community. And both very engaged, very involved. And Luz also is helping us with children's programming for our series coming up at the ICE Center. And so we just want to say thank you and give you a warm welcome. Should we welcome them? Amen. Thank you very much. I want to invite Giancarlo to come up here. One of the ways that we want to help our community and others take steps towards Christ is serving all ages well. And this church is blessed to have a lot of families with a lot of kids. And one of the areas that we also want to grow in is serving teens and high school students. So Giancarlo has been here for a while and has been engaged with music in many different ways here at the church. And so he is going to be the leader for our high school ministry starting out. And John, if you want to just share maybe 2 minutes about the ministry and about when it kicks off.
Sure. So I got little notes here. I'm like, my brain right now is in like information overload, so I'm pretty exhausted. But I just want to share a little bit of, at least to me, the importance of youth ministry. First off, this is for me, to integrate young people into the body and mission of Christ Jesus, right? So this idea of integration, right? A part that, that is in harmony with the whole, okay? So in other words, to do this within this, meaning youth ministry, in the context of the body of Christ, is to know Jesus, to follow Jesus, and to live as Jesus lived, as he's modeled for us to live, becoming a part of his mission of reconciling the world to himself. And so I base that off of two texts. Deuteronomy 6, for most of you, so you don't know, that's what we call the Shema. And then Paul's body theme of 1 Corinthians 12. So I'm really looking forward to creating this high school ministry here at Life Spring, and along with the other leaders. We'll be having what we call gatherings, which we'll meet at certain homes and, we'll connect, eat some food, cereal, donuts, who knows, kind of whatever the young people want to crunch on or munch on, whatever you want to say. Saturday nights, the second and fourth Saturday nights of the month, as well as we'll have a service day. Either working alongside of Life Spring on their service days, or maybe having our own. In which, hey, we invite you to join us as well. Other than that, I'm excited. If you have any information, any questions, you want some more information, meet me after church. You can grab my email, my cell, and whatnot. Yeah.
For those that might be wondering, when does it start? When is the first meeting that you guys have?
The first meeting will be in February. Let me give myself my calendar here. I blinked out on the date. 11th. The second and fourth Saturday for gatherings. Yeah. So February 11th will be our next gathering. We had one last year. Saturday evening. Yeah. We had one last year. And went really well. So we'll have one again February 11th. I'll be giving out more details through email and through other social media. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I want to invite Al Negretti to come forward. So one of the other areas that is important to mention, it's not only the ministries to help one another to step closer to Christ, but also the communication. And Al, as well as his wife Christy and a few others, have been working a lot behind the scenes to set up a new website. And so Al, we want to say thank you so much for all the work that you've done. It's not easy working with volunteers or even with a pastor that at times takes time to respond to you. There you go. But all the work that's gone into it. So just share a word about it. I think we have it on the screen as well.
Sure, thank you. First, I would like to thank God for allowing me the privilege and opportunity to serve here at Life Spring. He alone is worthy of the credit. So, the URL to our new website is called lifespringadventist.church. It changed from lifespringadventist.org, so we're trying to get it to where it points now to the new URL. So, if we can go to scroll down, this is the landing page. And if we go down to the bottom, I don't know if you can move it over just a bit. Here at the bottom, we can subscribe to the newsletter for the church. So if you want to go in there and put in your email address and click on subscribe, that'll go to Anthony and he'll add you to the list so he can send out newsletters to everyone. Down at the bottom, it also gives our address for our location where we worship. And it also gives you the times for worship, grow groups, and what time we have for Life Spring Kids. Also, it has the upcoming events that are on the church, that are coming up on the church. And if you click on the calendar event, you don't need to click that yet. Click on the calendar of events, it'll tell you what's coming up on the calendar. So we can go to the About page. Okay, we scroll down a little bit. So here it tells a little bit about who we are, our story and how we got here, our mission. It also has our vision and the values of our church. And also it tells us our beliefs, who we are as a Seventh-day Adventist Christian. And we also have here our team for the church. We have our pastor team, our elders, and it also has our ministry leaders. Also, if you needed to get in contact with somebody, you can click on the email icon that's beneath their picture, and it'll send them an email directly. You can click at the bottom. No, you can go back up. We'll go to the next page. Gathering. So here is basically kind of tells you what we do here at church. There's a countdown that we have to reset every week, but it tells you what to expect when you're here, the location of the church, and also, if you scroll back up, put an icon there for sermons, past sermons. We just started doing that with the videos, so if you click on here, it'll take you to a site, take you to another page, and it'll give you all the sermons that we've had, that we've recorded. So let's click on the next page. So for grow groups, we have a lot of groups here, and what we want to do is have people sign up for them. So it tells you a little bit about each group, and if you want to know a little bit more information about it, we have a link there. If you click on it, it'll bring up a page where you can sign up to attend that group. And also we have here for this Dig Deeper, those are the Friday night Bible studies we have at Ethan's house.
Get some.
So for our Go 813, this is about our projects, what we do here in the community, and we basically just put up a few of the events that we've had done over the past couple of years. And if you just click on the picture, it'll give you a description of what we did in the community. So this is our Get Involved page, where this is where we ask people if they want to get involved with the church to come here, take a look and see what we have to offer. And if you want more information or to sign up for a ministry, you just click on the More Info tab and it'll take you to a sign-up sheet. Once you submit that, it'll go to the ministry leader and then they'll get in contact with you to be a part of that ministry. Give page. This is the best page we have here on the website. It's where you can give to the church. It has a button here that says Give Now. You click on that, it'll take you straight to the website so you can donate the money God has given you back to the church.
Amen. This is good. Amen.
And our last page here is Contact Us. It's basically a means of how to contact us. You can contact us through email, you can call us, and you can even write to us. And it also tells us where we meet for Sabbath. It's all the website is always a work in progress. It's never complete. So we're going to be constantly updating the site on new events and things going on here at the church. So just continuously be looking at it because there will be updates there. If you have any questions, you can always email me. My email icon is underneath my picture. So we need help. So if you are interested, please contact me and we'll put you to work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Al. Appreciate it. I want to invite our music team to come on up as we wrap up. And again, this is a little different than an average worship time, so it might feel a little more informational, but it's very important for us, right? We want to be organized, our communication, what's going on this year. There's several other things that I was going to share, and I'm not going to because of time. But I want to challenge you as you leave today to be challenged by the example of Jesus. And that is to relate to others in a way where the question is, how can we take steps closer to Jesus? How can we create a well that's so attractive that we want to be around, that people want to be a part of? That's the vision for outreach. That's the vision for community. Everything's wrapped up in that, to be a spring of life, like Jesus mentioned to this to the lady in the story. Next week, we are also starting what's called Discover LifeSpring. And so this is an opportunity to sit down and talk about the experience of the church, the stories, the values. It's a 2-week class. If you are interested, please fill out one of the envelopes, drop it in the offering as we collect, and that's going to take place on this side of the worship space 2 weeks. Next week, the 21st and the 28th, and to talk more about that. Thank you very much as we close.
Amen. So Al just showed us where you can give. And so that's one way you can give here at LifeSpring. But at this time, we're going to collect offerings. So if you'd like to give today, you can. You also have the option of meeting us at our Connect table outside and giving there as well. Amen. Let's stand and sing together. It's one of Ikenna's favorite hymns. So if you get tired of it, blame him. I'm not tired of it yet.
All right, let's sing this right, y'all. At last.